Yeah, I want to make an analogy with Afghanistan. We got into Afghanistan in the late 70s under Carter because we wanted to create a Vietnam-style quagmire for the Soviets. And it worked. But what we did to do that was we allied ourselves with the Taliban. And then when we were satisfied that the Soviets had moved out and it was helping them to collapse, then we just withdrew and forgot about it. The dynamic here is that we offer these, that is, we come into a place and we offer assistance to the side that we think is going to help what we want. And then we expect loyalty in return, but we don't offer any loyalty. And what you're saying, what you started out saying, what you both started out saying was be wary of getting into a situation in which you're allied with one side or another. But what we're doing over time is we're consistently making ourselves unreliable to the people that we ally ourselves with, or people whose sides we make, so that we produce more and more fragmentation over time. We're creating the disaster that's happening by our own behavior. I dread this. That is, we are making a disaster, and we're doing it because we think loyalty is supposed to be a one-way street.
Well said.
Thank you. I appreciate the point. And there's, if you look at the last 50, 60 years of alliances in the region, it in some instances is not the best story to tell. You know, one of the reasons the nation of Iran, the elderly in Iran, remember when we helped overthrow a democratically elected president in Iran, Mossadegh. And so, Richard, I think you're right. We have been a little over time. And by the way, that may feel good at the time because he's standing with you against the Soviet Union, but there is a cost to be paid.
So, I think what you're telling us is that no one has been able to articulate a positive path to a successful outcome in this region right now. And I think getting back to the lessons learned speech, which I totally agreed with earlier in this conversation, it seems to me that when you don't have that clear path or are able to articulate that clear path, it is better to err on the side of doing less than more. And one of the lessons we've learned over the past, in addition to the ones that you articulated very well, is this escalating meddling. And what I feel is happening now is because there is not a clear policy that you two guys are trying, obviously, legitimately trying to articulate, now what should we do without being able to describe a positive path to an outcome. Is this 200 more? It's 500 million in arms going to a set of people we can't even describe in Syria. This is the way we get into trouble, guys. And this is what I think you're hearing here, is we want you as our representatives to stop this progression. Stop if we can't really articulate with confidence an outcome, policy, in my judgment, has to be to err on doing less. We know, as a matter of fact, over the past 50 years of foreign policy, that military intervention does not make friends for the United States. We know that as a fact. So why are we escalating the meddling?
Right.
Why are we doing that? Why are we getting closer and closer to this horrible precipice?
Listen, I lived this again, going back to the Syria question. I lived this in real time as I was, being pushed and prodded by the administration to support their plan to put weapons on the ground in Syria. And I understand some of the rationale that ends up in American hubris. It's this idea that if there is suffering in the world, if there is chaos, then as the most powerful nation, we must be able to do something to cure it. And I think you're right, that with some exceptions, and some notable exceptions, over the course of the last 100 years, the United States has shown to be at times powerless and at worst counterproductive when we try to treat those wounds. And I think this is potentially another example.